Hello, everybody, to the Woods Best and Only, the podcast about the iconic 2000s X-Files clones Freaky Links hosted by queer people. My name is Anna, full of water, and your name?
My name, as always, is Ludovico, and we are ready to talk about it in this new year, in this great new age that has begun.
Yeah, it's the second part of this. This is the second year of Freaky Links, 2020. We're gonna do other ways of Freaky Links.
Yeah, we got a pretty good episode today for you, so we're not gonna talk around the ball too long and just start out with this summary. Okay, so after the typical Freaky Links framing device of Derek telling the story after it happened, we meet Chloe, Jason, and Derek on their way back from Bigfoot hunting in Tennessee. They spot an overturned car on the side of the road and find a traumatized woman looking for her boyfriend Brandon. The gang decides to investigate the matter, even though the local sheriff wants them out of town. After interviewing some people, they decide to go investigate the woods where either wild bears or some ancient evil lurks. They find Brandon's arm and meet Lockhart, an old man who lives in the woods and lost his son to whatever dwells within the forest. After another warning by the sheriff to not further look into the matter and get out of town, Jason and Derek instead break into a boneyard to get pictures of the arm. They then sent those pictures to Lan, who's back at Freaky Links HQ, to try to identify the type of animal that did this.
After some bear shenanigans with Lockhart, with him showing them a known totem pole of a thunderbird, and Ian getting some info from a zoologist, Derek comes up with the theory that it might be a pterodon that attacks in a 30-year cycle. They successfully bait the creature with dairy meat, resulting in their car getting attacked. Meanwhile, the sheriff accidentally tells Lockhart where the creature is and gets knocked out by him. The freaky Q finds out that the monster has to have a dwelling in the local ravine. Around the same time, Derek spins ahead to the cave where he meets an injured Lockhart who decides to blow up the cave with him and the creatures in it. Derek gets saved by the sheriff in the last second. Lockhart and the pterosaur die, but pterodons are once again extinct. The end.
So yeah, this is a wild one because this is probably the wildest creature we had on Freaky Links so far, but it's gonna get topped immediately next month.
Yeah, next month's gonna so thing. Yeah, it's interesting. Before getting my thoughts, I guess it's interesting because for the most part now we have just the usual monsters. We have American folk tales. We have ghosts. We had stuff like that, and now we're going to those dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. The jump we went from mole people to extinct species from 60 million years ago.
Yeah. Do we want to give who? Do you want to go first, or I go first and give my thoughts?
We're just gonna spit around all our thoughts and analyses that we have.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. I think this episode is the most I even wrote this in my notes. It's Freaky Links at its most solid. It's a solid episode of TV.
Yeah. I got reminded of the way Hannibal starts, where they establish a pattern with the procedural, where it's a formula. And I feel this is the point in Freaky Links show where they basically establish the formula. Where the last episode and this one have a similar style and vibe to it that you can see, this is the same show, this is the same energy.
Yeah, it's very much now the characters are themselves and they are basically on into their worlds as of now. I really love the part they have to fake be I think Derek and another character just has to fake be having a dead parent, a dead family member to get access, and it's really great because it's just we're crying why this very like caricature of like
this is actually probably one of the funniest parts of this actor, when he like screams out in anguish.
Yeah, because like, oh my god, and then this person's like in this very much like gentleman stereotype, like moderate worker person's like, sir, can I help you? And it's like, oh my family member died, and it's honestly very entertaining. And
It's basically a dark comedy scene, and it's pretty well executed. Like, it's one of the funnier scenes in the entire show, maybe.
And after that, we got some iconic Derek dancing dead body parts. This is good.
Yeah. This is the second time in the show, and it's not the last time.
Yeah, I think it's honestly they really know how to like really make an entertaining episode, because they really honestly it's a little precursor to what happens in the next episode, because they do a thing of like because they use a lot of tropes and like Saturn and American Horror, like something's happening in this weird town, what it can be, it's just like a monster.
That's like, why it kind of reminded me of early Supernatural, where they just drive around and hunt monsters.
Yeah, it's honestly entertaining because you're just talking to these people and it's like setting up this trail of like, is it some monsters, some things? They use all the stereotype, the tropes and everything, and then just set up, and then it goes into the very entertaining setup of, oh no, it's dinosaurs, it's the dinos.
Yeah. It's basically, it doesn't really give you a lot of hints to what is going on, and then dinosaurs out of nowhere.
It's honestly very, very fun because it very much just puts Derek and the crew in like their stereotypical like rural Saturn town thing with the same tropes. You have like the very actors hamming it up with like southern accents. You have of course the sailor who doesn't want these people like in the town. It's very much that. And then it very much wants to go into this direction of being like, oh, they're gonna fight like a monster. Like they set up things like but some way this like, is it Confederate soldiers? And no, it's dinos. It's the dinos.
Yeah. They basically, the red herring is the bears. It's they talk a lot about bears, and then they even get attacked by a bear in a very funny like montage. Like this is also a great comedic moment where Derek is in the in the flashback, where he basically in the framing device explained what happened, and he says, yeah, you should never run when like you get attacked by a bear, and then it immediately cuts to them running for their lives, and it's comedic, good cut.
Yeah, honestly, we like how they do like the flashback, because Derek's a bit more playful this time. Where the other times it tries a bit harder, maybe it's a bit more stale. Now it's really playing with this thing of like, oh, Derek's is in the present talking about what happened.
Yeah, and it's also like, I took a note here that says, the show implies that Derek is an unreliable narrator because the scene starts without rain, but then he says, did I mention it was a dark and stormy night? And then it cuts back and now it's raining.
Yeah, it's a really playful. It's really like it feels very. It's very much. We cannot talk about this, of course, but it feels very much a bit closer to what happened in the next episode of playing with genre tropes in a just very fun way.
It gets basically cheeky and meta on a certain level.
It really feels like if this first three Freaky episodes is like setting up what we like about Freaky, even this is basically what we like about Freaky. It's a genuine, entertaining genre horror show that knows what it does.
Yeah. Like it doesn't take itself too serious, but it also has like parts where it tries, and the contrast of those is very funny. Because we have a moment here at the end of the episode that reminded me of the Ghost episode, like where the mother gets basically killed by her daughter ghost, and then the next scene is like happy music. And here we have the scene where the father sacrifices himself to kill the pteranodon and basically makes them go extinct. And like maybe a better show would have like taken a moment to like look at the gravity of what just happened. But instead it like cuts to them back at the HQ and there's like happy music playing. So they do the exact same thing they did last time.
Yeah, honestly, I think
But it's even funnier this time.
yeah, honestly, actually, it gets what I like about these cats because it's so like this could very, very much sometimes falls into the use of these cats as being assholes, but they are really lovable weirdos. Honestly, just lots of good moments between characters. Honestly, of just random stuff and the way they interact.
When we're already with like talking about character dynamics, like we get a lot more info on like the relationship between Lan and Derek in this one.
Yeah,
Like they drop a lot of like they focus a lot of like, oh, Lan is in love with Derek, but Derek doesn't want to be with her. Like a bit of that, but very very high. Because like she is lying in his bed while he's away and stuff like that. It's like it's almost creepy. Lan is a bit like of a stalker.
yeah, that's what's interesting. It very much feels like trying to get to. Yeah, it feels like much they're trying to set up what could be. We're gonna see hints of this. There's hints of like setting up what could be in season 2 of this, but season 2.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this before, but it basically hints at this love triangle between Chloe, Derek, and Lan.
It's my question. So it's like I understand not everybody wants to be party or anything, but like just make them party. We don't need fast life triangles. Even come on, 2000 Fox.
If Derek was bisexual, this would basically be a harem anime.
Yeah, the freaky links it still is no harem anime.
Yeah, where basically everyone wants to be with Derek.
Derek in this episode is pretty entertaining because he's just his usual self. His usual like like weirdo self, and it works very much because all the other characters are just tropes of like certain horror, like American horror stuff. So you have this serious, we're not allowed in the town, and there's just this weird like, okay, just going, what? I'm just gonna do whatever.
Yeah. I was almost astonished he never tried to like bribe the sheriff with money. Like that's the kind of thing you would expect Derek to do after he like desecrated a corpse, an arm of a person for his website.
Yeah, it's like not going to this to talk about that thing, especially the time, but like I really do enjoy just how this episode very much gets a lot of those tropes, at least like with a lot of Southern horror, of course, not all because Southern horror specifically like the type of horror is very diverse, but a lot of it to have, of course, like the small town, either like a good guy or bad guy that goes to a small town. There's the self, there's these feels of like just uneasiness and weirdness, and like the Southern America. And they're so played by that, instead of the cats being like these healers or anything, they're just kind of like at just these aspects of chaos. They don't care what they are.
They're basically like a mix of grifters and detectives in the noir.
Yes, it's very funny because like all these characters are set up to be this type of like this weirdos, and then the town and like the authorities are like we don't allow you here, but the Freaklings kind of just breaks that because the crew doesn't care. That's honestly one of the best things. They don't really care about what the authorities, what anyone cares. They're just here to solve the case, and they do anything.
Yeah, I think Chloe is really into pathologizing the sheriff. Like she mentions multiple times that he seems to have some like issues with like how he handles his authority. But they don't seem to really actually care about the people in town. That's true. They are just there for the story. They're basically like reporters looking for that big scoop.
It's a really fun episode. I really do enjoy it, and not just because I'm a fan of like Southern Hollow and everything. I'm just a fan of just this is just a fun episode of a fun TV show. It's enjoyable.
Also,
It doesn't even go that much. Continue.
this is one of the few episodes where the title like makes immediate sense, like the next one too. Because a coelacanth is like an ancient sort of fish that was first discovered as a fossil, and then 100 years later they discovered that actually they were still alive. So this is like one of the few species where fossils were found before we actually found the living species itself. And basically that's the analog here, that the pteranodon is like a living fossil. So yeah, it's not like your usual. It's not like the last one, which is like some kind of deep lore in joke with Edith Keeler must die. It makes actual sense.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a really enjoyable episode and everything. I guess just to before I go to just to give an example, what I'm talking about. In specific, when I mean Southern Holland in specific, not Southern Holland, but Southern Gothic just means like very much like stories about people within small towns in the south. Like it doesn't even have to be Hollow. Like a lot of Western stories can be Southern Gothic, just about getting that Gothic atmosphere in a way. About small towns, about certain tropes and things with. Do you want to talk about the weird thing with the Confederate soldiers?
Yeah, I didn't quite like I didn't research, for example, if the Confederates actually got into that zone, like if they actually were in Tennessee. So I think you looked up some stuff about this.
It's less I looked up, less and just I think it's weird what they do with that, because like Southern Gothic and stuff and white like that do handle that stuff, because a lot of whites do like to try to tackle like racist history and everything. But for that, it's weird because they use that as kind of just a wet herring. It's just there to distract
I think it's just really it's only used as confirmation for their 30-year theory. So it's not like it's trying to make any kind of statement or have any kind of context. Yeah. It's really just, oh, these are old people that killed a dinosaur, a pterosaur.
Yeah, it's not like the worst or anything. I don't think that does anything. It's just like, well, it's in the south, it's in Tennessee, so Confederate soldiers. It's basically that. It's weird, honestly. Not the way it's pretty light, fun episode. It's not bad or anything, it's just weird.
You could have replaced the Confederates with... that's the thing. They find out about the 30-year cycle by counting back to the war, Civil War. So... yeah, without the Civil War framing device, they would have to like use another historical event to like pin back that 30-year cycle they talk about.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not bad or anything. The series we talked about, this has worse things. It has with race and racism and
We're gonna get there.
We're gonna get to the racist old guy total episode because.
Like something we didn't mention yet is like Lockhart is played by African American, so
yeah,
it's interestingly written for the time, because like you have a lot of stereotypical writing of black characters in this show, like in one later episode specifically where it's about hip hop. But he basically is written in a way where you can make him any ethnicity and the character would still like remain the exact same.
Yeah, it's like it's honestly a very solid enough writing character for Freaky Links. It's like this guy really cares about his son. He'll do anything. It's part of course, of that type of like, it's not just like Southern Gothic. It's part of a lot of Gothic, not a lot of horror and Gothic stories at all. It's like a trope, but it's very well done as that.
Yeah, his motivations are very clear and understandable. He just wants revenge, and he's like bitter from losing his son. So that explains how he acts during the show.
Yeah, it's like it's done character. I don't enjoy just the whole scene of like, okay, I'm gonna kill myself for revenge with the dino we're gonna kill the dinos. It's fun. It's like the most fun death scene ever, honestly.
Yeah. Also, we never really see the dinosaur. That's like incredible. Like we get like maybe a half shot of like something flaring through the air, but we never see the dinosaur in this show.
Before we talk about the dino part, just to go to that because I do think we'll talk about dinos because we have a lot of info. Just one thing. I'm going to ask a question. Do you think they did not sell the dino because they did not have a budget to do that?
I'm actually happy. I mean, I would have loved to see like a very cheap dinosaur. It would have made so much sense in a show like this.
Yeah, like 60s Doctor Who BBC costume dinosaur in this 2004. So
I actually wonder if this was one of the reasons the show wasn't that popular, because they did it twice in a row. They basically didn't really pay off their monster. Like, we get like 30 seconds of actual mole people at the end of the last episode. And here we get like 5 frames of what could be a dinosaur, maybe.
Yeah, it's like I do not know a lot about budgeting of American TV shows, especially in this. I don't have a lot of info about the budget of things, but the thing I know, especially from being a long time, especially in horror, being a long time horror fan and lots of medias, is that making horror costumes takes a lot. Just making any Quitzer costume, like even just making a suit, especially for like this is a low budget like TV show from 2001.
And this episode definitely was on a budget because like they just filmed somewhere in a like small town. This could be a bunch of states. This doesn't actually have to be Tennessee. And like they didn't have to. They didn't have to film like in a city or somewhere where it's expensive. They could just go into the woods for a while and do the rest in the like sets. Yeah, so it feels like it's on a budget, yeah.
Yeah, we don't even know if it was even shot in the south. It could be like, okay, here's this town in Woolon, New York.
Yeah, they could just be in any woods, like anywhere in America.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's just, honestly I'm fine. I do like when they don't sound the big monster. And it's entertaining enough just to go, this dinosaur's attacking us. We don't see them.
Yeah. It's funny enough to see them like piece it together and the way they interact with the local people. Speaking of the local people, there's one character which I really can't make sense of. I know she's supposed to like just give them directions, but they spent so much time with like this young woman who works in I think it's like a Waffle House or something like that. And she like recognizes the camera they use when they interview her, and she's like has ambitions to become a filmmaker.
Well,
and then she gives them directions, and Derek kind of flirts with her.
I wonder if that's like, I don't think like this was a 2000s episode, so I don't think they were like setting up a new character. Like, I don't think this.
No. I just don't. I just wonder why they gave her so much detail.
Yeah, that was like, what I was saying, because I don't believe this was like setting up a thing. It's like, why? Because I was wanting the same honesty. Why is this cat cutting a lot of time? Is this
if anything, either it's like something that's left from an earlier script from this episode, and they basically rewrote it a bit. Or this is actually really set up for like in season 2 when they return to Tennessee.
Yeah, it turns out the dinosaurs are still on the island. They did not.
Yeah, like of course that's a far shot. Who knows if they even did any setup for like season 2?
This cat was actually the new member of Freaking Inc. He was gonna join up with the crew. It was just missing. Yeah.
Maybe she helps them out, like.
Yeah, she was there with the gags, and the one had gags, and Snoop Dogg was there. also Bubsy.
That's when they found out that gags was real.
Yeah, the gags is real, and then John's cool, and then gags again, Bubsy and Snoop Dogg, and Eminem also joins.
Oh wow, that must have been expensive. Like getting Eminem in 2001 or 2.
Yeah,
he was like a hot commodity back then.
But
Okay,
the dinosaur facts.
Let's destroy the deep dinosaur lore in this. So I think we don't even have to talk about the thing that basically makes every dinosaur movie ever in existence like unrealistic, which is like the air back in the day was like way richer in what is called breathable air was basically way more dense, so creatures got way bigger because of that. And nowadays the air is thinner, so creatures are smaller. So basically, bringing any dinosaur back in this time would like immediately kill them, because like they don't get enough air to like sustain their large bodies to like keep the blood flowing. So we're just gonna ignore that, because that makes Jurassic Park also make no sense. But then it like continues, because first off, they say it migrates along the Appalachian Mountains. So there's two problems with that. First off, pteranodons, like they didn't eat like things from the land, like from all we found in the fossils. They lived from fish. So like the last thing a frigging pteranodon would do is like settle in an alpine region and then just eat people. Like their beaks aren't made to like go through bones and all that stuff. They're made to like eat fish. And then also like the Appalachian Mountains aren't a very hot region, and this was like 2 ice ages ago. So shit was hot back then. So what I'm saying is like this episode should have been set in like the Californian coast. But the Californian coast is way more expensive than like the backwoods in Tennessee. So I guess this is another reason why it's not that didn't happen.
They should have set it in Florida, so we could have the Corso episode.
Oh, Florida would make total sense. Yeah, like in the swamps. I would have totally bought that. Like, but they go to Florida later in this show.
Yeah, they go for the second best episode.
Yes, and also another fluke, like pteranodon skeletons. Yeah, fossils. They were found all over in like America, in North America, but never in Tennessee. So they could have chosen between like 6 different states that had like pteranosaur fossils found, and they didn't choose the one. So yeah, that's like my take as a like a dinosaur expert on like all the things they did wrong.
Question: Could Pterosaurus enter the cave, or would they be too big, realistically?
I don't know enough about like how they lived, but I don't think they were like cave dwelling. But theoretically, they could probably get in there. Yeah. The thing is more that like the 30-year migration pattern, they actually say 2 different things in the episode. So at the beginning, they say it has a migration pattern. So that means it like goes along the Appalachian Mountains, and every 30 years it returns. But then later they act like it hibernates for 30 years in the cave.
Wow.
And then comes out. And that makes like no sense, because like no animal can just not eat for 30 years.
Not to go into, it's not an animal facts podcast, but the thing with hibernation is that like bears, when an animal hibernates, they're not just sleeping, they're actually still awake. They're just mostly there vibing, honestly.
Yeah. And also like another thing is if this was the last one, was it just like extremely old and like hundreds of years old? Or because it makes no sense, if this is the last one, how did they like populate before this?
Yeah, like, we don't know.
We never find out. Like, it could be this isn't actually the last one. They don't even interrogate the idea that there could be more than one of these.
Yeah, like, was just this one survived the Ice Age? Like, well, what killed these animals? What killed the other?
I mean, it was most likely that, like, meteor that fucked everything up. and then the like climate change that followed with that.
Also, the real reason they got killed, the whitest natural passage for 20 dinosaurs and more.
It's so weird, but yeah, it's actually it's pretty funny because this is really the kind of logic that you expect from a show like this. And maybe this is just because the first time I kind of know about what they're talking about that I see all the logic holes.
It's honestly pretty funny, honestly, because like I just honestly, this is why I like this episode so much because like I watch so many like horror TV shows either animated live action that follow pattern in the masters, and this show just goes, okay, small village house in town. What if dinosaurs are real for no reason? I want to know why they thought about this because it's honestly kind of
I think there is actually like I didn't look too much into it, but I think there is actually like a cryptid myth somewhere in America about like ancient flying dinosaur. Like, yeah. I think people made the connection between, like, myths about, like, the Quetzalcoatl, like the holy, the flying snake of the, like, Aztecs.
Yeah.
And then they connected that to flying dinosaurs and said, like, maybe they found fossils of this. So there is, like, a established connection here that they also play into when they mention the Thunderbird of, like, indigenous American cultures.
Yeah, yeah.
So there is some kind of precedent. It's just it's still a very deep cut. It's basically like going to the cryptid site and looking for the cryptid that makes the least sense.
Yeah, let's not get to. It's really dry, but yeah, like I've seen takes on that. I've seen horror and things like that of like, oh, the Aztecs are actually dinosaurs. Which like that goes a bit into appropriation stuff. That
definitely, yeah. Like stuff like World of Warcraft does that like 200%.
It's like this episode kind of goes out to the Thunderbird, but thankfully it's just such a small part of it. It's just there to set up that dinosaurs.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time they use indigenous people just as shorthand to say, "Oh, this thing is old."
Yeah, it's.
They did literally that in the first episode.
Yeah, well, I talked about it in the first episode. It's thankfully much more subtle than the first episode since they don't do that. It's still an issue, but thankfully this is very much one of the least problematic episodes of this show. It's just fun adventure.
Yeah, this episode has like Confederate soldiers and is like one of the least problematic ones, which is it's very American. It's very Fox TV.
But yeah, I think do you have any more takes on Terror Diners on this episode?
I think I communicated all my grief with like the logic. Why would they go to a place so cold? Like, no.
But I think the last time, before I go to the musical corner so we can end this, do you have any more reads on the characters, or that this is just we already talk about everything on the main cast?
Yeah, I'm thinking if there was... there's a short scene where, like, Lana rejects the zoologist because she wants to be with Derek. I just thought I want to mention that scene because, like, it's... They've spent so much time this episode establishing this, but then they kind of forget about this subplot. I feel like they kind of forget about that, like, there's tension between, like, Lan and Derek.
Yeah, I guess the thing is like as the show goes on, the family set up. But at the same time, you can really see a lot of what they set up. We're gonna talk about this in Desert Squid because it's a very good episode, but also it's a setup for a thing that never pays off. You can see a lot of the side plots and main plots just going away.
Yeah. You can see the bigger picture of what they had planned when Desert Squid happens.
Yeah, but in this, it's the same thing with this plot about the romance, because you can see they were trying to set up things, but then it never goes anywhere.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we can go on to the music.
Okay, musical time. Maybe I'll just have some music. There was one band I could not find the info and about the drag line in those songs. I could not find the song they used in in this episode at all. For some reason, I don't know why. It's basically lost media. It's lost freaking media at this point. This is weird.
Yeah, like in 40 years, they're gonna look at Freaky Links like they look at Doctor Who today.
I'm gonna find out the lost Freaky Link stuff.
Trying to find the lost Freaky Links bands and like the good versions, the good rips that like got taken off YouTube lately.
Yeah, before we start music, I was just trying to mention that YouTube has said absensato for the Freaky Links channel that high-res versions of Freaky Links with conversions and everything. The YouTube has ended it.
Yeah, I my fear is that there were some ads in there that people that like got caught by some DMCA system.
Yeah, so ever since that for the hill that started uploading it, which sadly means we need to there's a Squid do not have the very good quality version of it. But we saw
yeah. But yeah, y'all can still watch along on YouTube if you want to. Just the quality isn't that good anymore.
Yeah, but yeah, like okay, we started. The first one is Taylor Park Pam. They're a New York hard rock outfit that seems to be still that seems to be not active from what I can find. It's hard rock and it's early 2000s hard rock and out rock.
The Freaky Links curse got them.
Yeah, the Freaky Links curse. The second one is Old 97, which is surprisingly, besides that appearing band, that first band, all of these bands I think are still going.
Okay.
Old 97 on an out country band from Texas. Apparently, I don't know if this is correct, but Wikipedia says they're like one of the pioneers of out country music.
Yeah, it's hard to say, like, because old country isn't like some established genre that people talk about regularly.
Yeah, it's like it's technically all indie folk all indie country folk music, so it can be anything, honestly. But yeah, apparently they're still going. I looked up actually the stuff. The stuff is very much. I do like that stuff. Very much like early '90s outlaw company. They seem it's fine enough. Apparently, one of those songs, some of those songs were in Walk Band 1 and 2 as DLC.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
It was DLC. They also had a couple songs in TV shows. So
I can imagine being in Rock Band 1 and 2 is like better for your career than being in Freaky Links.
Yeah, they seem to. I listened to those stuff. They were much fine 90s outwork and stuff like that. Apparently, in the 2000s they went more into a power pop, like pop installation. It's also still fine, even if I don't particularly. It's not thing that I'll listen to after doing my looking. Actually, I should know two things. First, they had an app. Apparently, they had a song in Scrubbers.
Okay, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Which is great. Also, very good the very good Nickelodeon show for 2000 heads like me. That's the classified school survival guide. They apparently had this. This out country band had a song in the Nickelodeon live action show from the 2000s. It's great.
That's pretty incredible. But yeah, it makes so much sense that they were like a band that licensed a lot of music for television.
Yeah, they seem still going, still popular. The wiki says they did some music with some country lessons. They had an album last year. From apparently, they released an album that I actually did not listen to, but they seem to be going and everything.
The way the wiki page talks about that band, it sounds like it was written by the band.
Yeah, I also do want to mention this because this is honestly kind of comedic. When they started recording, when they started recording their album for 2020, they first got this was in the night of a tornado outbreak in Nashville, and then a couple of days before COVID started. Well,
Okay.
it was the first tornado and then COVID at the same time. Well,
Yeah, they didn't get very lucky last year. It
Yeah.
sounds like.
yeah. Okay, second band. It's this. This is either wide that I'm guessing you don't know either wide, right, Rudo?
Not really.
I actually know them. They're 90s like outwalk indie group from Scotland. Scotland is famous enough for having like a lot of indie bands. Most famously like Ben Sebastian's is in the Mary scene. They're one of those that type of indie scene bands. They're very popular because they're like Wikipedia labels them. I guess the term is post beat pop. That like when beat pop like Oasis, Blur stopped being a thing. There was kind of like you will have those UK bands trying to be the after that, and they were one of those like bands. I listen to them; they're fine enough. Like if you listen to enough like indie and artwork from like the UK, it's that sound.
Yeah,
There's
just in general, the music in this episode never actively annoyed me. But I also never got like that moment where I was like, yeah, I'm really vibing with this, like I did in the Ghost episode.
Yeah, it's not bad or anything. It's very much just even just how it's used. It's very much just there. Like if I'm not gonna talk about how it's used because it's just mostly there. The music, it's not really that memorable. It's just mostly there, just set up scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess to be positive, it fits into the episode well enough to like not be jarring.
Yeah, but otherwise they actually are still going. Had an album there, 2019. That I heard decent things about. They are still pretty much still going. Had some lineup changes, but basically still going. And the last band is probably the most interesting one because it's a handsome boy modern school. So it's a posit between. I actually confused and say it's not. It's a posit between Dan the Automaton. Dan the Tomato, which is a very known,
Right.
very known.
He worked with gorillas and stuff.
Yeah, but you know, like underground and alternative hip hop, like producer worked like Delta 300, the Gorillas, a lot of
Yeah.
underground stuff, and then the other person working the positive spin spot of De La Soul and other hip hop posits as well. It's very much. It's actually I looked at that. It's very much like interesting. It's very much like experimental, like hip hop, playing a lot of samples and sounds. I actually had a song with another musician that was in the soundtrack for this for the Mole People episode, Cat Power. So you had a song with them. It's really interesting. It's very hip hop, yes.
I guess if we like backwards engineered all these groups, like which labels they were on, we could probably like trace to like which labels they had a deal with when they like promoted music in this show.
Funny enough, I don't know if they were in the same time, but funny enough, the Handsome Boy Modern School and all the 97 were in the same label, Elektra.
Ah, yes. The pieces, they all come together.
It's just interesting because I mostly know Elektra for like out and folk music label, but this experimental hip hop was also signed them to them. But it's very good music. I actually listen to their albums. They're very enjoyable. They have a lot of interesting people like Mike Patton of Fate No More, the Mouse Boat.
Yeah, I might even give these a listen, which is something extremely unlikely normally for this show.
There's a song with they have mics on all the Flicken Park for the song. This is honestly.
Oh, now I gotta listen to this.
And also was he of the Wu-Tang Clan?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. I like the first time is so real because not on this and anything, but it's loosely based on an episode of a forgotten 90s sitcom they liked. So it's this weird concept episode of a sitcom they like, and it's honestly pretty fun. They just kind of just scroll around the samples and tip hop and things.
I couldn't tell for like the life of me. I watched this episode twice now, but I couldn't tell for the life of me where they play that artist, that group.
Yeah, I honestly cannot know. It's weird because the West kind of feels have some wild rock, some wild country, and like just then this, and it's like I do want to like we mentioned this a million times. And we're probably gonna talk about more. What was their deal? Was like, do they really like okay for this episode we have this artist or like you have this artist pick the episode we want to use them in. We would literally have to interview somebody from the show.
Yeah, it would be incredible if we could like get the info on that. That's like one of the deep questions of Freaky Links.
Yeah, I think music on is ended now. Honestly, before I end it, I want to ask you a question, if you don't mind a little.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, what's like your take on the evolution of Freaky Links? Because we started with two kind of wacky episodes, and now we went to a decent enough third episode. Now it's solid enough, and like what's I guess your take on how like the sewing involves as a thing.
I think I mentioned this before. Like this and the last one really are like when Freaky Links finds its rhythm and like gets to be the show it wants to be. But also later in the show, it's gonna get even more interesting in like what it does and how it like breaks the boundaries of what the framing device and the story can even do. So I don't know if this is like the middle era of the first season of Freaky Links.
Well, basically the first season.
Yeah, the first two episodes are basically like the first era, like Goyer and post Goyer. And then we have like the Freaky Links era, that's like peak Freaky Links, that starts with the Mole People episode and then goes all the way till I guess we start getting until the police episode in like 9 or 8 episodes. Then that's the last phase. That's like the meta part. That's where they start really doing some things that you didn't expect they would do.
Yeah, I guess to end this, I'll say this really goes into setting up what I like about Freaky Links a lot as a TV show. We're going to mention it a lot, especially. I don't want to go too much because we're going to mention it a lot in the Desert Squid. I want to cover that episode, but then episode 5, the next episode for next month. It's like, but what I enjoy about Freaky Links, it starts as a typical like 2000 Supernatural show, and then just becomes this show that's very much about kind of subverting the formula, not subverting, but playing around with genre tropes of various horror media, with playing a lot with being a TV show, and becoming genuinely very fun, entertaining, and good. So honestly,
I will say this right now: this show is better than the second Blair Witch movie.
Yeah, it's that's for our podcast about Blair Witch movies.
I'm just saying this is better than Book of Shadows, and you can feel that like Book of Shadows was written by a different written and directed by a different person, and this show has those moments where it's like self-aware, like you get it in like Blair Witch Project, I guess.
Yeah,
where it tries to subvert some tropes, and they even make a Blair Witch Project reference in this episode specifically. Yeah. They reference their own movie, which shows you that they like have a sense of humor about the thing they're doing, and that's always a good sign.
Yeah, it's a show that really feels like playing with self. No, it's not too much and silly, and honestly, that's what I'm really enjoy about this episode. After we watching the first episode being a bit wacky, these last two episodes remind me about why I like the show a lot. It's really fun, honestly, and it's honestly really fun to talk about when it's really good. But yeah, we're going to talk about that more for Desert Squid because that's going to be very special. Like always, you can find me on Alice Wood of One on Twitter, Alice Wood of on YouTube, Twitter, etc. Ludo?
You can find me on Twitter, Ludovico_LTD. And I might release something this year musically. Wow. So keep an eye out. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And see you all next time.
See you next time for possibly the most entertaining thing of this show. Bye!
Bye!
But hey, I was thinking about making a movie about it. You know, like that one that came out with the kids running around in the woods. You know that one?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Oh.